Sorry, I was not on. I was on mute. Okay. Good morning once again. Sorry, I think I was on mute. Um, so last class we had started about talking about cell groups, the purpose of cell groups. It's a biblical model, how it's a place for increasing the church, making disciples, raising up leaders, accountability, and then we stopped at will the cell group model work in a city? So I think some of them said yes, some of them said no. But yeah, I think God gives us the wisdom to see what works where, and we should plan accordingly, right? Like for example, what worked in David Yonggi Cho's church in Korea may not work in India or may not work in Africa. Right? So again, we just because it doesn't work doesn't mean it cannot work. Right? It may work in a certain extent in some place. In certain places, it may not work that much. But it's something that is biblical, so it's not wrong to try it. Okay. Okay. So let's look at the APC 12 model. Now, this is a model that we have come up with. It's adapted from the G12 model. And hence we're calling it the APC 12 model. Now, what is this model all about? It's very interesting. Everyone can see that picture on your notes. Those online, there's this picture there. Looks like a microcosm of in biology class, right? Full of molecules, but it's basically a picture of what a G12 or APC 12 model looks like. So you see the big center there, and there are 12 dots around, meaning this person inside is the life group leader, and the 12 dots around are the 12 people, right? The 12 people in the life group. Now, those 12 eventually start off their own life groups, each person, and they have 12 people under them. So basically, it's like a ripple effect. It's like a chain. Right? You've seen a chain, right? It's just continuous. It just goes on and on. And this is the model that we work with. Even now, well, like I shared last week in our life groups in APC, I always ask leaders who can be next, who can be the next the next life group leader. And then we also look for potential leaders and see if, we can start new life groups. So for example, this January, we have 2 people who are starting life groups. Over the years, from September, I had it in my heart to see how they are, because they've been attending church, they've been attending weekend schools, they've been attending, prayers, the prayer sessions that we have, very regular, serving faithfully, good character. So I kept it in my heart. I said, okay. So I also encouraged them, why don't you join a life group? And the moment I said that, they joined a life group. They were part of a life group, right? And now they're ready. So next week, I'm training them to become a life group leader. So let's look at something that we do in APC, right? One cell group leader is responsible for discipling 12 people. We've already talked about this. Your cell group is committed to one another. Look at these 2 words, discipling and committed. If we want to disciple one another, commitment is important, because commitment takes time, effort, and your resources. Everyone say that? Time, effort, and resources. Example, you want to be a musician. What do you need? Chira. Chira is the guitarist. So, did you learn in one night you learned guitar? How long it took for you? Years and years. Did it take time? Did it take effort? How much effort? Did your fingers bleed? Did not bleed? Okay. Did your fingers cut? Yeah. Did you feel like giving up? Yeah. Right? You felt like giving up. And time, effort, and resources. Did it take certain resources of yours for you to learn? Anything. Yeah, money as well, right? But anything that we want to do in life, when it comes to commitment, takes time, effort, and resources. Any person in leadership did not come in there unless, if they have some business and their father is a businessman, they end up joining the organization. But still, they have to know about the business. They can't fake it. Right? They can't say, hey, my father's the CEO of this company, so I'm the next. They'll say, good. What do you know about business? You've taken science and you're sitting. It doesn't work. There needs to be time, effort, and resources put. Now, when it comes to discipling in ministry, this requires time, effort, and resources. This will take your time. Life group, cell group, they'll come to meet in the evening. Your time is gone. Right? It's you're giving your time for the life group, whether you're a life group member or whether you're a life group leader. You're giving your time. There's effort because you have to prepare life group material. There'll be questions that were asked that we don't know the answer. Some answers we know, we give it. What we don't know, we tell them, hey, I'll get back to you. Effort. And there's resources. It takes time. I mean, there are resources that you will have to give out for the life group as a life group leader. Right? So discipling is not a one-off process. The Lord Jesus, when he discipled his 12, what did he do? Time, effort, and resources. Jesus didn't say, I am the beginning and the end. So now you're beginning with me, you'll end with me. It didn't work that way. He had to go walk with them. He took time to, what did he say? So many places. Right? It says, this crowd is too much. Let's go away. Only 12 of us. Let's go away. Alone. Let's be alone. You'll all look tired. Let me speak into your life. Time. He took the effort to raise up these 12 people. He chose them. He took the effort to correct them. Right? In the book of Mark, it's very interesting. In the book of Mark, this whole episode happens where Peter, James, and John go up to the Mount of Transfiguration. Right? They've seen the glorified Jesus. Okay, they come down. There's a problem. There's a father whose son is demon possessed, and now the father comes and says, I brought him to the disciples. Disciples could not do anything to him. He's still possessed. What did Jesus say? How long do I deal with you people? I mean, it sounds rude, but the thing is, what he's trying to say, Jesus is trying to say is, I have given my time, I've given my effort to you, right? I've given everything, I've put it to you. You need to step into it now, right? You need to step into the call that God has for you, right? Have you heard of this saying? You can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. Yes? So, in discipling, it involves a lot of effort. Now, some of us may be up for it. Some of us, we may need time. Some of us say, no, I don't want to go into this whole discipling thing. I can make the song list, sing the songs, make everyone happy. Good. Maybe that's your calling. But discipling is for all of us. Whether you are 1 year in the Lord or 10 years in the Lord, you and I are called to disciple one another. We're not called to, it's not like, only if I know the scriptures in and out, I can disciple. No. Wherever we are, we can get into this place of discipling, mentoring, teaching, learning, growing. Right? The cell group leader works with each of the 12 at a personal level to build them up and bring them to a place of maturity. Very important. 2 words underlined here again. Personal level and maturity. As a cell group leader or a life group leader, why we have 12 is so that he or she can speak into these 12 on a personal level. And as I speak into them in a personal level, I want to see them come to a place of maturity. It's not like as a life group leader, I've reached or attained this highest form of maturity, so I can speak it. No. Even in leadership, the other second years I was teaching about timeless principles and how in leadership also we make mistakes, but we learn from it. So even in leadership, we will make mistakes. We will fall. Even the greatest, the people who have great revelations will make mistakes. Example, Apostle Paul. Did he make a mistake? Can you tell me one mistake that he made? That too in the initial. No, what mistake Apostle Paul made? Remember, he very good. Was it Barnabas? Was that needed? Not needed, right? John Mark, he abandoned us. I'm not coming with you. I'm going on my own. Now, he went to third heaven and came. What more we want? Right? Such great revelations. But at the end of his ministry, what is he saying? Bring John Mark. He's helpful for my ministry. So you see that maturity came even over the Apostle Paul. So even for us, as we are discipling and mentoring and speaking into each other's lives, we are bringing them into a place of maturity. But this happens only through a personal level. Cannot happen in a group setting. There are 12, but the responsibility of a life group leader is to speak into each of them's life. Right? So, for example, here, right, there are 6 of us here. So so each one of you have different kinds of things happening in your life. You're in different seasons in your life, different geographically, you're from different places. You'll have different backgrounds. So all of you have different cares and needs and things that you want to do in your life. So then I can't use what I shared with Chira. It may not work with Prince. So Chira, that works. But for Prince, it doesn't work. Prince will say, no, it doesn't work for me. My setting is different, Pastor. So this is what I'm going through. Right? This is the problem that I'm facing. So on a personal level, I'm able to speak. Right? Now, over time, as a life group leader, especially when you're new, we may not know what to say. Right? Oh, what do I say? Or sometimes we feel incompetent, meaning we are not qualified enough to lead this group. We'll talk about that more later on, about the responsibilities of a life group leader. But there's a personal level of commitment. Now, here's the thing. Why is that personal level of mentoring happening for maturity? It's not for anything else. It's not so that everyone recognizes me, or for everyone to know my name, or for fame or anything like that. The reason I'm doing personal fellowship of personal mentoring is to bring that person to a place of maturity. That should be the heart of a leader. Right? And eventually, the person I'm mentoring should even become better than me. And I should be okay with it. Right? Then, the goal over time, the cell group leader encourage each of us 12 to start their own cell group and begin discipling 12 people. Right? So, over time, again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's over time. Give time, but you encourage them. Now, here's the thing. Not everyone are ready to take on leadership. Right? So, for example, here, Prince is the life group leader, and we have 6 of us here. Prince may say, Chira, you do this leadership. Chira may say, no, I don't want to do it now. I prefer being in the life group for some more time. That's okay. I say, okay, Nikhil, you take it up. Nikhil may say, can you give me a few months to think about it? It's okay. I say, okay, Anand, can you take it up? Anand will say, okay, I'll take it up. So at least you're making progress, right? Now, as a life group leader, Prince should not get discouraged. What is this? 12 people I have, none of them want to start their own life. It's okay. Give people time, right? In leadership. The goal of the APC 12 model is making disciples. A lot of discipling and personal involvement takes place between the cell group leader and cell members outside the cell group meeting as well. Very important. Do not, finish this whole thing of discipling in that 12, in that same forum. Meaning, this is the meeting. Once we go out, everything changes. I'm the leader, you're the member. No, doesn't work that way. And I must be able to step out in a way as a leader to even minister outside of the cell group, outside of a cell group setting. Right? So, for example, there's somebody in my life group and they're having problem with work. And I began to talk to them, and he or she is in the workplace, IT company, working. Problem in the workplace. Now, I'm just sharing some thoughts with them. I'm saying, see, this is what you can do. This is what, by standing on God's principles, this is how we can, overcome this challenge that you're facing. Now, it may not end there. So there may be a time he may say, hey, can you meet me here near my office? I just wanted to share something. Now, if possible, let's try and do it. And I know that we all have work. But what I'm trying to bring out is it's not only about ministry that we talk about. Outside of ministry also. It can be work, it can be family, it can be children. For example, one of the things I always ask, people who are in their, who have children who are in their teens, I always ask them, how is it? Mine are almost coming, right? And then they say, no, once teens, they'll only be with friends. So I keep telling them, whatever it is, I'm your father. Don't forget that. Right? When he was in second standard, drop him to school, he'll say bye 5-6 times. Now he gets off the car and goes. So the other day I said, come and sit down here. Till your 10th standard, till I drop you in your 10th standard, you better say bye to me. Properly. At least 3 times. It may not happen, but here's the thing. What are we doing? I'm speaking into their life in a personal level. I'm not just giving him Bible verses every time. There are different areas that I'm looking at. The same way, even in life group, different areas, right? And we must be able to minister to them. Okay? Everyone with me? Yes? Okay. If cell groups meet alternate weeks, this will amount to one cell group meeting each week. So now here what happens in APC. Chaya, you have a question?
No, Pastor. I just responded to your.
All right. Sure. Okay. So here's what happens in APC. We have life groups. I've shared this already, right? Which meets weekly, bi-weekly. Once a month is very rare, so we don't encourage that because not much of discipling can happen once a month. I mean, if I imagine I come once a month and meet you all. Oh, it just becomes another date. But at least we encourage every week. But if it's not possible, once in 2 weeks. But what we are also doing is we are also doing hybrid. So if you can't meet in person always, do in person 1 week, online another week, right? So we avoid the whole thing of meeting once a month because it's not going to serve the purpose of the life group, right? That is to disciple, to be there for each other. If a cell group leader is able to, once all members have of his initial 12 have started their own cell group, he can start another cell group of another 12 while continuing to minister to the original 12. Now, think of it this way. Say, for example, we are here, okay? We are a life group, just so that we get context. There's all of us here, 6 of us here, and maybe, hybrid as well. Now, we've got the life group, and all of a sudden I'll say, okay, I've been preparing maybe, Francis this time. Okay, Francis, in February, you start your life group. Francis is all prepared. So I've shared with them how you can, I've also helped him where to start, how to start off. He's been speaking to people in the church saying, hey, I'm going to start my own life group. Why don't you come? So we do all that. And then I take him through the life group leaders training. Now, eventually, Francis will start his life group in February. Okay. Now, he may start off with 2-3 people. And once he starts off, I can always be there as a support. I mean, say, these are things that worked out when I started. Especially after the first cell group meeting, I can always check on him. How did it go? Did everything go well? Right? Where did you feel that you didn't prepare well? Did you prepare well? Were the questions okay? Were you able to give good answers? So something that I do here in Bangalore is when a new life group starts, especially if it's a family life group, I go and sit in that life group. I don't do anything. I just go and sit and I watch. Right? The problem is when you go to these life groups, they'll say, Pastor, you lead, you lead. So what I do is I inform the life group leader, see, I'm going to come, but I'm just going to sit. Now, it's not like you're doing some FBI work to see what they are, some investigation as to what they're teaching. No, I'm just sitting and I'm watching. And I see certain things and I can give him feedback, good and things to improve on. Right? So once this person as a life group leader starts off new, be there for them, help them, then eventually you as a life group leader can start another life group. And so Francis can lead. Maybe three of us will say, hey, but Francis's house is closer to this place. I'll say, please go. Go to Francis's life group. So Anand, Chira, and Nikhil go to Francis's life group. We are left with three of us here. Right. Now I'll say, okay, Prince, I've been talking to you for some time. Why don't you go and start yours? Nina, you start an all women's life group. So then eventually all are gone. Now I'm not sitting and crying. What about me? Nobody in my life group. No, I just go and start another one. But I can connect with you. Hey, Anand, how did the life group go? Are there new people coming? So, yeah, there are new people. Okay. Now, especially when there was end time series, I remember I used to call the life group leaders, especially families and youth boys, call them and ask them, hey, how did it go? The discussions, was it okay? It's okay. Don't worry if you don't know the answers. Don't worry about it. That topic is hard, but you listen to the sermon. Try to do some research online, see what you can learn. Feel free, even if you don't know the answer, just be all right. Right? So what am I doing? I'm just speaking into them. Now they are confident. Hey, so Paul said, if you don't know the answer, also it's okay. So I'm not in any kind of stress or no pressure on me that I should know all the answers. They're freely serving. Okay, our objective in becoming a cell church is not to have cell groups or cell meetings. Our objective is to make disciples. And that is why it's underlined, where everyone is ministered to and everyone becomes a minister. That's our objective, right? Make disciples. Now, this is the APC 12 model, which works for us. Right? It says here, why the 12 model? God's number for fruitfulness and multiplication, 12 tribes, the way God multiplies his people, God's government. Right now, this is something that works and is working for us. Now, in your setting, it could be 5. Right? It could be 6. It could be 10, whatever the number is. But you have a number, because suddenly you may have a life group becoming 15, 20 people and you won't know what to do. So when you have these guidelines, okay, see, as a church, we'll have 8 people in a life group. So when you reach 8, you know you have to start another one. Very simple, right? It's not like after 1 year you call up and say, oh, Pastor, actually we have 20 people in the life group. What do I do? Guidelines, it's written. How will you alone minister to 20 people? You won't be able to. You will get a burnout. 8 people is what is given, so make it 8. Right? So you have it in place already, and you're working towards that. Okay. Look at this: APC 12 cells and care cells. What is the goal in the APC 12 model? Discipling making is the main goal. Meaning, I want to disciple you, and you in turn will disciple 12 other people, and it just becomes a chain effect. But in care cells, it's more about evangelism and fellowship. Right? Evangelism and fellowship. Here, cell APC 12 model. Cell leaders' responsibility is to disciple the cell members, develop them as leaders, and equip them for disciple making. Now, that's what our heart is. We want to take people, equip them, empower them, give them opportunities, raise them into leadership. Every believer is a minister. But in cell groups, cell leaders' responsibilities, make sure you have the cell group meeting. So that means you can talk the whole time. But that's something that we don't want to do. Now, not like care cells are wrong, but the approach is very different. Okay. Three, each person is committed to one cell leader. Here in a care cell, people can visit any cell. So, for example, now it doesn't mean that here an APC life group member cannot go to another life group. He can, but we encourage them to be committed to one leader, because now for example, I'm speaking to Francis's life. He's been sharing over the past 1 year. Now, all of a sudden, Francis decides, okay, I'll go to another life group. New people, the life group leader doesn't know what he's going through. Now, he may have to restart the whole thing. Right? So it's good to be committed to one leader until you reach that place of maturity. And in a care cell, you can visit any cell group. Because why? There's no personal level, right? Oh, you've come, okay, that's it. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to worship, read the word, pray, and close. That's it. Okay? Each cell grows up to 12 people, and each one starts their own. When numbers increase, the cell divides, right? In a care cell. Now, look at this, the last one. Every person will become a leader of a cell and disciple 12 others, but in a care cell, a person can attend a care cell and never become a leader. That is sad, no? Now, what will happen is they will only be on receiving mode. Receiving, 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 receiving. That is why, if you look at this, look at our Bible college, for example, 3 hours you're only receiving mode. But we also want you to give out, giving mode. So you serve in church, you prepare your sermons, you lead the worship here, right? You have fasting prayer. So you're also giving. You're not just receiving. You're being trained into leadership. You watch, you learn. Okay, this is how it's done. And you apply it. And when you go back to your hometowns, you can, you apply all of this that you learn in your ministries. Okay? So just a note here. Evangelism by all cell leader and cell members will always continue even after a cell group reaches its intended capacity. So here's the thing. Whether you are a life group or a cell group doesn't mean that I don't evangelize. So we look at some of the responsibilities of life groups. Evangelism will be there. Time to minister to people or to reach out, evangelism, and fellowship, all of that is there. The main goal in APC is disciple making. Out of that will flow everything else. But in care cells, it's more about evangelism and fellowship. Not much of a difference, but you can make out that there's a difference. Because in the APC 12 model is we want to see leaders raised more and more, right? So how does a cell group meeting here in APC, what do we do? So just look at it, general guidelines. Normally we leave it to 90 minutes or 120 minutes. But here's the thing, you can have it for longer. This is just some guidelines, right? You may ask me, Pastor, should I do it only this way? No, that's why it says general guidelines. Okay, let's look at some of the general guidelines. All members are encouraged to share, and we ask that everyone speak openly and honestly. Very important. Everyone should share. Everyone should speak. Right? And I went to one life group recently, one of the life groups. This was a new life group, and I went there. And very genuine family life group, right? Very, a person who's filled with enthusiasm, right? And very knowledgeable in God's word also. I just happened to go to that live group. I said, I'll go. So I went and I sat. Now, one thing I noticed was after this worship time, for almost 20 to 25 minutes, he was talking. 20 to 25 minutes, he was going on talking, saying, and he was talking really good things, right? Material. It was end times that time. So he was talking, he had made a map and all of these things, and he was checking it. It was beautiful. I think getting sorry, 1 minute. Yeah, it was wonderful, right? Wonderful life group. This was happening in the east of Bangalore, right? So it was that side of town. And wonderful life group, and he was leading this. But for 20 minutes, he spoke. Then I had to tell him. I met him after that. I said, see, for 20 minutes he spoke. Then he asked the questions. And everyone shared a few thoughts. And I also noticed that there were some people in the life group who never said anything. They were just there. And they didn't speak at all. I noticed all this. So I met him and I said, see, we'll avoid this. Worship, immediately get into the 4 questions that are there. Just give a summary of what happened on Sunday. Okay, this Sunday we spoke about this uh, end times. We talked about the rapture. So these are the questions. Give the question, open it up for discussion. Not speaking for 20 minutes. That's not what we want to do. Because you may have a view about rapture that I may not have a view of. You may say, I don't believe in. Anand will say, I believe in rapture. Prince may say, I don't believe in rapture. Same life group. If we don't discuss, now you are saying yes, you are saying no in your heart. What happens? You finish life group, all of them gone home. And Prince is like, hey, I never got an opportunity to share that I don't believe in the rapture. I need some more, scriptural proof for it. And he'll say, hey, it doesn't interest me. Life group. Whose fault is it? It's not his fault. It's not Prince's fault. It is the fault of the life group leader. So here's the thing. All members, all of them must be given an opportunity and encouraged to share. That's why even when we are teaching, right, we always take some time and say, any questions? Because you must get an opportunity to ask questions. And if you have things that you want to share, you can feel free to share, right? Every person should feel safe about opening up. But please remember, it is very important that we stress confidentiality. Now, here's the thing. There are some matters people will speak to us in public, like in a life group. But there are some matters they'll come and share it to us personally. And those personal matters must be strictly kept confidential, right? So, for example, somebody, in the life group, somebody comes and says, you know what, I'm having a problem in my marriage. Example, right? I have a problem in my marriage, and this is what's happening. Now, as a life group leader, I must not meet the next life group and start talking about, some of us here may have marital problems. This is what God will do. No, I must stress confidentiality. There are some things that are confidential, keep it confidential. Then there are other times people may openly say, you know what, I'm looking out for a job, I'm going through financial problems, I need a job, please pray for me. So it's not confidential. Everyone know we can pray about it, right? So some matters, and the person must feel safe to open up, because he should not feel this whole news. Next day it's there in the newspaper, or next day this news is there among the entire life groups or in the entire church. Everyone know. No. Must learn to maintain confidentiality. We will reach out to our family, neighbors, and friends with goals of bringing these people to Christ. Right? We will keep the interaction in line with what Christ is doing in our midst. Underline this. Refrain from storytelling that is irrelevant to the subjects we are discussing. That's what I did that day. It may not have been a storytelling, but we must refrain from always stay in line with the topic. Now, for example, this is the life group, and Anand is leading the life group. We're talking about rapture. Okay. And Anand says, okay, so we were talking about First Thessalonians and how the rapture happens. And I suddenly say, you know what? I was reminded of what Abraham did. When Abraham was, there in that place, God told him, you come out of your land and I'll make you a great nation. Great nation. So, Abraham waited for so many years. And he's going on and on. I'm going on sharing about Abraham. Abraham is good. He's happy. But the problem is, here we are discussing about rapture. Now, Anand is saying, in his mind, he's thinking, this guy is gone off somewhere else. Yeah. What do I do? As a leader, it is very important to learn how to bring the conversation, stir the conversation back. Now, what should Anand do? I'll put myself in Anand's shoes. Say, Paul, can I just pause and stop you for a moment? Yeah, what happened? See, we're talking. The question is about the rapture. So maybe we'll first discuss this question, leave it open for others, and in the end, we'll talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you want, we'll go on. But now, since all of us are on this topic, can we do this? So, what have you done? You have not been rude, but in love, you brought correction, and you brought, most importantly, the life group, the discussions, you've stirred it back to the main topic. Right? Now, listen, in a life group, you will find many kinds of people in ministry. Some people, you beg them to talk, they will not talk. Some people, you beg them to stop, they will not stop. They will not stop. It's part of it. It's part of it. But we must learn how to work with each one. Now, here's the thing. As we do this, we cannot control people's emotions. Now, Anand would have corrected me. I may have got fully offended. Next week, I'm not there in life group. Or I can take it in a way, okay, Anand, we'll discuss it after. Can you give me like 5 minutes? I just wanted to. Yeah. After we discuss all the questions, maybe while we are having snacks, you can share whatever you feel like. So then I'm not offended. Right? But Anand cannot control my emotions or my response to a correction. It's how I take it. Right? We will not murmur, gossip, condemn, be judgmental, or criticize. That's something that we must refrain from. And I'm so glad I've always shared this, that in APC, not that I'm boasting about APC, but this is something, it's true, and I'm not making it up. Very rarely, I think in this, 14, 15 years or I maybe got a problem once or twice. Some misunderstanding once or twice. And it was resolved also in no time. Just resolved. And thank God for mature people within the church who understand. But some people have felt bad. They said, no, I'll not come. And some of them have even moved on. But that's okay. But the thing is, those problems were resolved. Right? Uh, Murmuring, gossiping, condemning, being judgmental, criticizing either one another or the leader is not going to help. Right? Then pray. Prayer is an area that can bring the most growth and most strength in our life groups. We can ask each other to stand with each other for prayer, minister to each other, have a good prayer life. Now, here's the thing. If you want your cell group to have a good prayer life, you and I must have a good prayer life. We must start off by being an example. Right? Start off by being the example. Because prayer is what holds the cell group together. Biryani will not hold the cell group together. People will come for biryani. If they have biryani in this life group, they'll come. Next life group will make better biryani, they'll go there. Or rather, church may make better biryani, they may go there. So the point is not biryani. or not the things that you do. Now, it's good. Games, all of this is good within the cell group, but it is prayer that holds the cell group together. And there's a feeling of oneness when you pray in together as a life group, right? Lastly, we will always keep the vision of our church foremost in our mind. Even as we meet in cell groups, always reiterate the vision of the church. Why are we doing this? We're doing this not because we don't know what to do, or we have a lot of time. No, we're doing this because the vision of the church is to be salt and light to the city, a voice to the nation and to the nations. So I'm starting small. That's the vision. We are fulfilling the bigger vision of the church. Maybe five of us meeting in a cell group or a life group in a place, but we're fulfilling the bigger vision to be salt and light. Right? So here's a sample schedule here given. Now, again, this is a sample schedule. Some people start off with refreshments, get into praise and worship, the icebreaker, vision statement. Look at that, 40 minutes word study and open discussions. You see the importance there? 10 minutes icebreaker, 10 minutes worship, right? 40 minutes of word and discussion, 15 to 20 minutes of prayer and ministry. Right? So that's good. Good 40 minutes of the time is being spent on word and discussion. Now you can change this around. If you'd like, you can first have discussions, get into praise and worship, get into prayer and close. Or you can first have an icebreaker, then get into the discussions, have prayer. So you can move it around. This is not order that we must follow. This is just a sample schedule. Right? Now, some of the things that we want to do is be a holistic cell group or a holistic life group. What is a holistic? Simply means a balanced emphasis on worship, prayer, and study of the word. Right? So you have worship, you have prayer, and you have study of the word. Balanced. Everything is balanced, holistic, right? Fellowship, ministry to people's needs, evangelism, leadership, development, and many other aspects. All of this, we see a balance in them. Okay. Now, I don't know if you've read about Jim Igley. He has developed a tool called the upward, inward, outward, and forward model. Right? Now, what is this model? It's a very simple model, but it's a model that you and I can develop and begin to apply in our life groups. Right? So let's look at this quickly. Upward model. Matthew 22:38 says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind." So, as a believer, I'm looking up. Love the Lord your God. Right? So whatever I do, I'm doing it for the Lord. I know the Lord is blessing me, the Lord is watching over me. Upward. Then you go the inward model. That is your own personal life. Love your neighbor as yourself. So there's a responsibility that I have. First, looking to God, there's a responsibility that I have, which is the inward model. Then is the outward model. Matthew 28:19, he says, "Go therefore and make disciples." So I have to step out to make disciples. I have to minister to people. And fourthly, the forward model, teaching them to obey all that I have commanded. So Jesus is saying, listen, what I have taught you, you have learned. Now you take that and go teach others all that I have taught you, taking it forward. Right? So let's say that upward, inward, outward, and forward. Very simple. Upward, looking up, inward, inside of us, outward, what our first group of circle, and then taking it forward into a chain of discipleship. Right? So the upward model is the regular experience of God, where people encounter Him, a yearning for more of His presence. Life groups fail when group members simply go through religious motions and praying religious prayers. Very important. They fail when life group just becomes a religious motion or religious prayer model. No. It should be something that is driven, s- looking up to God, saying, God, I'm doing this for you. I want to glorify your name. I want your glory to be revealed in our lives. So you're looking up. Inward model is the value and love that you express to one another within the church. Here, Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 22:39. You love yourself, love your neighbor, love the people that you are in. This value begins in the cell meetings and eventually extends outside the meeting as life happens outside the meeting too. Now, listen, if you love somebody, right, eh, when you go out, it doesn't become an artificial love, right? Now, all of us are friends, right? They're good friends. You care for each other, you love each other. Now, if the geographical location changes, does that love diminish? No. So maybe 1 year down the line, suddenly you see each other in CLC, Christian Leaders Conference. Hey, remember, we sat for, mentoring hour or supernatural hour. Remember the things that we did. Hey, you know what I'm doing in my church? I'm doing this. The geographical location has changed, but the love and care remains the same or even more. That's the inward model. What's inside will come out. You don't have to fake it. If you're hiding from each other after seeing each other in CLC, then that is not real love. Oh, this fellow has come more. Let me search for the biggest tree and hide behind that. No. You always want to meet each other because it's expressed through love, right? Then is the outward model. The outward value is found in groups that understand that they are on a mission in this world. That is, as we are going out, we are making disciples. And so here you've got our own, we love each other, we care for each other, but then also there's this feeling of, hey, we need to step out. We need to go into places or minister to people who don't know the gospel. Right? So as a life group, you plan out how you're going to evangelize, minister to people. Right? And then the forward model. The forward value is seen when Christ followers are taught to obey all things Christ taught. The entire forward value center on growing followers to be of Christ to be disciple disciple making disciples. So what we're doing is I'm saying I am going to, as a life group leader, I begin to allow God to speak into my life. I speak into your life. You go forward, raise up other disciples, and you speak into their life. So it goes forward on and on. Right? So this model has been implemented by many churches and has been a great blessing to many churches. They've seen growth, they've seen discipleship, they've seen mentoring, they've seen people growing into maturity by applying this model. Right? So we'll stop here. Any questions, any thoughts? If you can make a mark there, we'll start from the how to lead a great cell group meeting from next class onwards. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great week ahead. I'll see you all on Friday. God bless you all.